1 million people.
Sit your black ass down.
This week we're reviewing the April 5th hands-off march that occurred all across the world, especially here in the United States, against the Trump's administration.
To attack a group of pro-democracy protesters and then ended up brandishing a weapon. And I want to bring some attention to this story for a few reasons. First of all, the mainstream media has completely failed to cover this story over the past day, but also the cops let this dude go. They bought the argument that he was defending himself, and the cops let him go after he brandished a weapon with the intention of intimidating the protesters who were just exercising their right to assemble, their First Amendment right. So I want to break this down, and I'm going to make the argument as to why he should not have been let go by cops and why this was not self-defense representing what happened. I mean, just read this part and think about it for a second. It says, several protesters described the incident in which the man apparently became angry when the crowd was crossing the street and not allowing him to turn at the intersection. A situation when the people on the other side are doing pro-democracy protests with, remember, no weapons. The people on the other side had no weapons. They were just chilling. This guy throws on a MAGA hat. How is the article going to claim that he was actually angry because of traffic? That kind of feels like the excuse that the police use to cover it up after, right? But let's watch this video of it all unfolding, then we'll check out clip.
What's up? What's up? What's up? Everybody that way! 911!
I like how he's screaming 911, and when the cops came, they just did him. But my analysis is not wrong here. It's clearly not wrong. I'm just saying, like, before he didn't have a gun. He did not have a gun in his hands. There's no gun here. You can see both of his hands. He runs back to his car, and instead of driving off, which would be the responsible thing to do, or locking your car doors, pulling off, and calling the police, which would be equally as responsible, he grabs a gun out of his back door. You can actually see him open the back door, and he decides to come around and
This is the prime reason on why it was imperative that Black Americans stayed home on April 5th. It's not that we were not cheering our white American brothers and sisters on from the sidelines, from our homes, we were at work, we were doing things that we would normally do, taking care of business, even on a Saturday. We were there in solidarity in spirit. But because we know the history of this country and the policing and the lack of policing, even in police presence, because we are Black, this is the reason why. And this man was so aggressive that it took several people to physically have to calm this man down while he was holding a firearm. Anything could have happened. I commend those people, but I do not recommend that anyone does that ever again in the future. If someone jumps out of their vehicle with a firearm and they were the aggressor, stay away from them. That precinct, that county of police officers, their sheriff, they all need to be reprimanded because they have a culture within a culture in that city of hiding and protecting the criminal. And if it wasn't apparent of what happened, what occurred, even some of the still shots of you seeing a police officer trying to explain himself to this person that was the aggressor with a firearm. It's just ludicrous. And this is the reason why we are not protected while we are, as Black people, able to demonstrate our constitutional right to protest. We don't have that right freely. We don't have that liberty here in the United States. We never have, and we may never have it because of so much corruption. Once these corrupt systems are out of play, then maybe, yeah. But in the meantime, this is not our fight. We voted on November the 5th, and we're going to keep it there. Now, of course, there's going to be a moment where we have our own movement. Things are happening internally, and we're keeping those things to ourselves. It's time for us to rally within our own communities, to tell you the truth. But I commend all of the marches that went on April the 5th. Hurrah, hurrah to you guys, because that is movement going forward. It's movement.
Demonstrations expected across the country tomorrow, including here in Portland. The Trump administration keep its hands off Social Security, First Amendment rights, and pretty much everything in between. Several groups, including Multnomah County Democrats and Oregon Physicians for Social Responsibility, will take part. Portland police said today they expect from several hundred people to as many as 2,000 to attend the Portland demonstration. After an hour of noontime speeches, the group plans to march from the waterfront on a 2-mile loop. And police say, based on their communications with organizers, they're optimistic that this will be peaceful.
As we have assessed it, we're not concerned about it. We think it's going to be very peaceful and a great day for people to be outside, get their steps in, and be able to enjoy the weather.
Now, we have two videos that I'm going to present to you. One is new and recent, and one is archived from 2020. But I want to do a versus. Let's compare the differences of behavior treatments between white protesters that happened on April 5th and Black Lives Matter protesting that happened in the past, also adding in the insurrection of January 6th.
Takeover has left many people wondering how something like this was able to actually happen and why law enforcement wasn't prepared. Many people are comparing the Black Lives Matter movement that took place in D.C. a few months ago to Wednesday's riot. The Black Lives Matter protest remained predominantly peaceful across the country, but in contrast, there were hundreds of law enforcement members present during the protests. Wednesday's riot was in the works for at least 2 weeks. It was promoted by the president and received national attention, yet there was significantly less law enforcement. And political consultant Tony Signoli told 22 News the difference is shocking.
If I were a person of color today, I'd be crazy, wild, and infuriated by this. This just is a shocking example of the inequity, the inequality that goes on in instances like this, that they could have been allowed to get that close. And again, this wasn't George and Martha from Montana. These were insurrectionists. These are people that need to and have to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Signoli.
You're hearing that the hands-off April 5th protests yesterday were so peaceful and everything was great and there was like no violence, no escalation, and that it was also predominantly white people, predominantly white women. Here's the thing. Here's the really important point. It is not that the people who were in attendance yesterday, right, the predominantly white people, the predominantly white women, are inherently more peaceful and law-abiding, and they just know how to do it, right? That's not the reality, okay? It is because they were met with a different level of force, being none, like a lack thereof, as opposed to when movements are predominantly about and backed up by people of color, right? Queer people, especially black people, especially black women. They are met with a different level of force, not only by police, but by like random conservative militia groups that were showing up every single day at the BLM protests. Like, there is a stark difference, not in the way in which the protesters are protesting, but a stark difference in the way in which power and force and violence, especially state-sanctioned, is responding to the protests themselves.
She said it so perfectly and summed it up so well that I'm just going to leave it right there. And you know, addressing these issues, it doesn't like hammer on or make it annoying or try to make one group feel bad over the other, because both communities, we both have work to do internally. Black people have work they need to do internally within our group, and white people have work they need to do internally within their group. And a lot of it is wrapped around this social construct of race and the inheritance that we took on from our these founding forefathers of the United States of America. They built their power structure on race and division, and it's taking us decades and centuries to crawl our way out of this. we have to do it. We have to have these conversations. We have to have movements like this, and then take a moment to sit back and reflect on it and conversate on it together, so that we're processing this together as a nation, not as divided communities. So I'm loving this. And this is the reason why I included in not only just black voices, I included white voices. I like to include other perspectives of other people, because United States, we are a melting pot. And we all have something to say. Now, I want to hear your thoughts on this, and where do you think we're going to go from here? Peace out. Thank you so much. Subscribe. And if you'd be so dear to just share this message.